Welcome back to Reviews and Rankings with Robby Sobel, and today our hike through Camp Crystal Lake takes us to the docks as we hop on a boat and head to Manhattan for Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan is directed by Rob Hayden and stars Jensen Daggett, Scott Reeves, Peter Mark Richmond, and Kane Hodder. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and I can't believe we are actually up to the 8th entry in the Friday the 13th review series. It's kind of bittersweet. This is the final entry in the Paramount 8, the first 8 films that were owned by Paramount Pictures before the franchise was sold off to New Line Cinema, which restarted the franchise once again in 1993 with Jason Goes to Hell, which we will get to next week, and I'm actually very excited about for many reasons. Anyway, Jason Takes Manhattan is an interesting film. I'm looking forward to talking about it, but at first, of course, I want to mention that I'm not the only one that is going to be hopping on this ship and sailing away to New York City. Along with myself, a bunch of my friends on YouTube are also dropping their reviews today so we can continue through this franchise. I'll put all their links in the description below. You can see all their faces right here. Make sure to check out each and every one of their content. Even though you're getting a review for one particular movie, each channel really offers a different experience, and even though you are watching a review on one particular movie, you get all of these different thoughts kind of mixed together, and who knows, maybe you'll look at one of these films a little bit different because of the reviews put out by some of these folks. So remember, their reviews are in the description below, and give them a shot. You won't be sorry. Alright, so after Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, was released in 1988, the film brought in just under $20 million on a budget of just under $3 million. Now, that seems like a pretty decent amount turnaround for a small film, but for a Jason film, a Friday the 13th film, they were expecting more. We're kind of getting diminishing returns here. The last few films that have come out, they've had modest budgets, but their returns have become less and less at the box office. Now, while the box office returns haven't been that good, and the response from the critics and the fans have been mediocre at best, you know, sales are still doing well in the video store, and Paramount Pictures thought maybe they could squeeze a little bit of life and blood out of Jason one more time. And in return, we get Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is not that good of a movie. And a lot of it has to do with the marketing. Jason Takes Manhattan. When you hear that, what do you think? You think Jason on 42nd Avenue slicing a prostitute's head off. You think of Jason in a back alley gutting up a bunch of drug dealers and gang members. You want to see Jason in the middle of Madison Square Garden going at it with the New York Knicks or New York Rangers. You want to see Jason decapitate somebody and throw their body right off the Statue of Liberty. You want to see some real major stuff here. Big landmarks, this amazing adventure. Jason Voorhees somehow comes out of Crystal Lake and into the most popular and biggest and greatest city of them all. But we really didn't get that. Now, a lot of that has to do with the budget. If you take a look at the budget of Jason Takes Manhattan, the 8th entry here in the franchise, the budget was reported to be between $5 and $5.5 million. Now that's a little bit more than Part 7, but still not enough to do significant filming in New York City. Most of the city landmarks here are actually filmed in Vancouver. It's a lot cheaper to film in Canada, so they did their best to kind of make Vancouver look like New York City. And as a kid, I didn't know the difference, but as I'm a little bit older and I'm kind of noticing and looking for it more, it's pretty obvious that it's not New York City. Now, they did get some shots and wide shots here to show the Statue of Liberty, especially when a bunch of the group of kids are on a little boat getting and docking in the city, but for the most part, not so much. Now, the story really takes off just a couple of years after the events of Part 7. Jason is still under the water after little Tina's father brought him in there. Once again, I'm going to say just what I did in my review last time. How are the police, and not just the police here in Crystal Lake, This is a massive manhunt. How are they not just going to this lake and finding Jason's body and pulling him out? This is not the ocean where he's getting washed away and you can't find him again. This is a lake, a tiny lake here that is just circled around a campground. So I guess we have to kind of just push that aside, don't think too deep. You're not supposed to be going crazy here. We're just going to try to find some type of easy little plot to jumpstart our story, and that's what we get. There's a couple that are on a boat fooling around. The boyfriend tells the girlfriend about Jason, try to give a little exposition here, and after a lightning storm, Jason pops out of the water. He kills the boyfriend, he kills the girlfriend, and gets a hockey mask very reminiscent of his own that the boyfriend was using to prank the girlfriend, puts it on, and he heads out. Boom. We fast forward to a boat that is supposed to have the graduating class on it. It must be a very tiny school. There's not many kids on this boat. And they're sailing off the dock to Manhattan. Now, our main character here is a girl named Rennie, and she's very apprehensive about getting on this boat, especially since one of the bigwigs here at her school is her Uncle Charles, who is not a cool dude at all. He's really kind of playing the role of the jerk that the Dr. Cruz role was used for in part 7. I'm not sure it's that effective, even though he really is annoying and he's a total jerk. Rennie, as we learn, had a very bad experience in the water. When she was younger, her Uncle Charles took her out to learn how to swim in Camp Crystal Lake. She didn't want to get out of the boat, but her Uncle Charles kind of pushed her in there, and she remembers a disfigured young boy pulling her leg down and trying to drown her. So apparently Jason, as a young boy, went after Rennie and was unsuccessful, but she's been left with PTSD and all these kind of psychological problems dealing with the water, which is why she doesn't want to go on the boat. I'm just going to kind of skip through this plot pretty quickly because this film doesn't really deserve a massive undertaking and explanation of all this. You have Rennie, and you have a close friend of hers. It's kind of like her boyfriend, but they don't really have too many scenes together. They don't have great chemistry, and the actor that plays her boyfriend in this film is named Scott Reeves. His name is Sean in the film. He's not the best actor, but if you watch the Crystal Lakes Memories documentary, incredibly lengthy, and if you're a fan of Friday the 13th, I highly recommend it. There was another actor that was going to be cast before him, and he actually shot a few scenes, but he was absolutely horrendous. I mean, he was like bottom of the barrel. It's almost embarrassing that he would even want to be considered an actor. I hope that he didn't continue on with his career, and if he did, I really hope that he improved in his craft, because what they showed was just embarrassing. It was absolutely terrible, and I even, just watching it myself, I was cringing watching at the acting. Now, you know, I went to school for some film work and media production. I put together, wrote, acted, edited, directed a couple of short films when I was younger. And of course, that was no money, and you're using natural lighting, and you don't have any professional actors, they're just some classmates or friends. The acting in those films was better than what this guy put forward. So they got rid of him, and they brought this new guy on who is at least serviceable. And in addition to that, we just have a bunch of cookie cutter, very forgettable faces that are kind of one and done. Jason hops this boat and starts killing them all, and unfortunately not in memorable fashion. The MPAA, of course, was really clamping down on horror films here by 1989, and these kills, they actually bothered me. Now, Paramount Pictures had released Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, just a year earlier, and they filmed some really gnarly kills, but they were getting gutted by the MPAA, so I can kind of give them a pass for that. They should have known that they couldn't have great kills in Friday the 13th Part 8 because of the MPAA, so they should have found creative ways to get around that, but they didn't. A lot of these kills are done off screen, and when they're done on screen, they're pretty lame. We kind of have a redo of Crazy Ralph. One of the deckhands on the boat is an older man who's a little bit loony, and he tries to warn everyone that Jason Voorhees is going to come back. And of course, Uncle Charles is calling him crazy and stupid, and everyone else really has no idea what to think. Rennie and Charles and Sean and a few others kind of notice that their friends are gone. They see that some of them have been killed, and they get on a little boat that travels the rest of the way to Manhattan, and that's when you get really the last 10 or 15 minutes of Jason in the city. Jason pops out of the water and makes his way through Manhattan. There are a few cool scenes here at the end that I do like. Jason is chasing Rennie and the crew through a train, and everyone's kind of like looking on a little scared, but it's almost like they're not sure how to react. That's just typical New Yorkers. You know, I was born and raised in New York, not in the city, but Long Island, but I did go to the city a bunch of times, so I kind of know the vibe of everybody. And a lot of it is just out of sight, out of mind. I got somewhere to go, I'm going there. If there's some crazy stuff going on, I don't care, I don't know about it, it's not my business. And that's just the mindset. So seeing a guy in a hockey mask chase a couple of kids, whatever. I got work to get to. Another cool scene though that we see is Kane Hodder as Jason making his way through a diner, and one of the cooks jumps up to confront him and Jason kills him. And that cook was played by Ken Kersinger, who would later on take over the role of Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. As the crew attempts to get away, Jason makes his way through, kills Uncle Charles and a few others that we will get to a little bit later on. At the end of the day, we have Rennie in the bowels of New York City in an underground tunnel. Jason is about to catch her when the sewer is flooded by toxic waste. I don't know why they included that. That makes no sense. Toxic waste doesn't flow through New York City. It's very bizarre. I mean, if that's going to be a main plot point, you have to at least kind of describe and talk about why. 1989 also was the release of Ghostbusters 2 when the river of slime was under New York City, but that was handled a lot better in that film than the toxic waste was in Jason Takes Manhattan. As Rennie's about to climb out, Jason gets hit with this toxic waste, and when the toxic waste is away and disappears, we see Jason not as a man, but as a young boy in a bathing suit, sleeping on the ground of the sewer. Now, was that really Jason? Did Rennie just see this? Is that symbolism? Clearly, no one really knows, because the Paramount Jason films did not continue after this, and we're kind of just left with what it is. Jason is dead. Rennie and Sean get up into New York City and just walk away, and that's the end of the movie. Clearly, you can see I'm not the biggest fan of this film, but there are some good things. Metropolis and the song Darkest Side of the Night kicks off the film. We see some opening credits in New York City. Not very flattering. You see a couple of guys shooting up heroin in their arm as this song is playing, but it's a really, really good song. It's actually one of my favorite actual songs that are played and featured in a horror film. But overall, you know what? If you're not a Jason completist, this is one you're probably going to skip, and I don't really blame you. There are a lot of other films and slasher films in the 1980s that you can gravitate to. Personally, myself, I do have some nostalgia with it. Parts 7 and 8 were played on the USA Network all the time as a kid, and I actually had them recorded onto a blank VHS, so I'd watch them back to back, and they were just kind of fun. I watched this the other night for the first time in maybe 2 or 3 years, and it really just wasn't that good, but it served as serviceable background noise. I was familiar with it, and it was comfortable. I could kind of just scroll around on my phone and do a couple of stuff around the bedroom, clean up around the house, and have this on, and that's good enough, I guess. Alright guys, at least we're going to get something good from this film. We're going to talk about the coolest kill. For me, this was pretty easy because most of the kills in this film are not that memorable. There are 2 that stand out to me. One was dunking Uncle Charles into a barrel of toxic waste. It was just a kind of cool way for that jerky uncle to die. But the best kill in this film is of Julius. He's one of the kids on the boat. He's a boxer, and it's established earlier on that he is almost kind of a Golden Glove style boxer. He ends up on a roof in New York City with Jason, and from one side to the other, he punches Jason with all that he's got. Every ounce of energy he has, he unloads on Jason, and Jason backs up until the edge of the building. Julius makes the mistake of telling Jason to give him his best shot, and he does. Jason, with one whack, decapitates Julius. His head flies off of the building and into a garbage can, big dumpster, and the impact of the head entering into the dumpster closes the lid, and that's the end of Julius. It's a memorable kill. One of the positive things about this film, there's not many, but that's one of them. Julius and his head coming off as the coolest kill in Jason Takes Manhattan. Alright guys, it's my absolute favorite time of these reviews. It's Deadliest Diva time. Now, I'm stuck on 2 here because Rennie, she's got some issues, but that's cool. We all do. She's very pretty. And I actually think she's better looking now in present day than she was in this film. In present day, if you take a look at that Crystal Lake Memories DVD and Blu-ray documentary, she looks gorgeous, like fire. Like, she is drop dead, jaw dropping. Like, I couldn't believe it. If you look at her back during the making of this movie, she's pretty cute, but she's kind of got all these bad 80s stereotypes. She's got like this frizzy hair that just doesn't work for me. Makes me feel like I'm looking at a music teacher in the elementary school. Not the way to go. But the big thing that I totally don't dig at all, just personal preference, and I don't know why this is brought back into fashion right now. So I'm just going to pause this and do a Robby's fashion tips. You wear what you want. It doesn't matter what other people think. As long as you're happy with it and you think you look good and you're comfortable, that's the most important, you're comfortable, rock it. I'm only giving you my personal opinion. Mom jeans. That shit should have stayed in the 80s and 90s and be done for. If you are a really good looking woman, good looking girl, you're in your 20s, your 30s, whatever it is, and you are starting to look super sexy and your body is tight and you got nice hips and you got a fat peach and all this stuff, don't cover it with baggy like mom jeans. It just doesn't look good. Like I said, you look like an elementary school music teacher. I'm not saying you have to wear like the hip huggers where your little bones are sticking out of your sides. That's super sexy. I totally prefer it because as a dude who, fares pretty well for himself, I suppose, that to me is just something that's going to catch my eye. Very attractive. I really dig it. I know a lot of other guys too. It's something that's it's a head turner, so to speak, right? Mom jeans, don't do it. Why? It is a turnoff. It is no good. So personal preference for me, once again, if you're comfortable in your mom jeans, if you don't care what other people think, no problem. If you like them, if you think they look good, you and your girls enjoy it, by all means, go for it. More power to you, great. But personal opinion, mom jeans and the frizzy hair has got to go. Check out her style now, and it's way better, totally top-notch. I dig her. So, Rennie, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put you to the side for now. And my deadliest diva for Jason Takes Manhattan is going to go to Tamra. Tamra is a wild, wild child. She's crazy. She's a wild girl. And I guarantee you, as she was kind of entering into college here, she probably had way too much fun in the sorority. Wait a minute, she died. Well, she would have had fun if she made it off the boat, but Jason took care of her. There's a scene in here where she is trying to get a good grade on a paper by conning Charles, Uncle Charles, Rennie's Uncle Charles, by getting into these black bra panties and drawing all over her body, like different body parts and organs. And when Charles comes in there, she kind of seduces him enough to get him on the bed, and then she's got this like little knucklehead with a video camera filming it to try to bribe Charles. That's crazy. She's super hot. You can tell she was totally DTF. You could have easily smashed. So if you're kind of just looking for a little bit of fun on a boat, like, you're totally going to go to Tamra. Now, she is kind of fucked up. She's a jerk because she pushed Rennie into the water at one point, and they had to go and save her. So I'm not condoning that. Like, I wouldn't... That's it. We're going to split this. I'm going to give two different girls the Deadliest Diva Award. My girlfriend award, I'm going to give to Rennie. She's total girlfriend material. She's the type you want to settle down with. If you're on a boat ride and you just want to get it in and smash a bit, you're going to go with Tamara and her little body paint and all that stuff. So Deadliest Diva, Rennie and Tamara. So Rennie for me, because of the mom jeans and the frizzy hair, that's going to kind of knock it down a bit. But I'm taking into the consideration what she's looking like now, which I probably shouldn't do. But I'm going to give her a solid 8 out of 10. But for Tamara, she's a wild child. I know I'm going to get it in a little bit with her. We're going to have a lot of fun. But if she got mad at me, maybe had one too many drinks, she might push me overboard. So we can't have that either. So just as equal, I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for Tamara. That's 1 in 1. I'm a giving guy. I'm a gentleman. What can I say? You don't want to just, show love to one lady when you could also balance it out. That sounds terrible. Don't do that. All right, guys, before we wrap things up here, we have to head over to Rotten Tomatoes and see what the critics and the fans think. And unfortunately for this film, they didn't like it much more than I did. The Rotten Tomatoes critic score for Jason Takes Manhattan is a pathetic and worst in the series of 8%. Oh man, that is just absolutely terrible. You know how bad a movie you have to be to have only 8%? Sometimes I see really low scores on Rotten Tomatoes and it pisses me off. And I'm like, man, you really got to bump that up a bit. Now, do I think Jason Takes Manhattan is 8% out of 10? Nah, I'm not going to go that bad. But I understand that it's not a good flick and it's something that critics easily would hate. On the audience side, a little bit better, but not much. Only 27% of the audience would recommend Jason Takes Manhattan, Friday the 13th Part 8 to others. I gotta say, you know what? That's kind of where I am. This movie does not have what you want in a slasher film. There are 3 things: memorable characters, TNA, and good kills and gore. Memorable characters? Not really. Except Kane Hodder, once again, does a good job as Jason. He kind of holds down that fort. My only problem is that because he's in the water and he's coming out, he really looks slimy. It doesn't look right. It just looks it looks too wet. He should have dried by the time he got into the city. But other than that, the characters were not on point. The kills in this were neutered or not there at all. That one decapitation scene was cool, but it was quick, and you really didn't see much gore anyway. The dunking in the barrel of Uncle Charles, that was cool too, but more just because he's a jerk and you want him to die, and it wasn't really the effect itself. And TNA, it's not much here, folks. What can you say? Girl in bra and panties, I mean, I'm not going to complain. You know, you see a girl in bra and panties is nice. But they could do much more. We've seen so much better from this franchise. So those 3, so no TNA, no gore and kills, and no memorable characters. That's strike 1, 2, 3, you're out. Jason Takes Manhattan, Friday the 13th Part 8, the final Paramount Pictures entry into this franchise, sits for me at a not so good 1.5 at a 5-star rating. Alright guys, what did you think of Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Is it a guilty pleasure? Have you not seen it yet and you're not sure? Either way, let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, you can hit like, and if you loved it, you can subscribe. And remember to hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at RankingsRS. So thanks for checking out the channel, guys, and keep watching movies.